Welcome to Old Man Sports Talk, and I'm your host, Old Man Nate. Man, it's been a couple week about a couple weeks since I've been able to get on here, and really appreciate you guys being patient with me. Had some technical difficulties, but we seem to got that work out. So here we are. We're back at it, and again, like I always, want to give a shout out to HXC Gaming. Go check them out on YouTube at HXC Gaming, and then also for Tumblr, A and K Engravers. Um, Appreciate them making making my Tumblr for me. And I got another one's coming up. But another one we're gonna be giving a shout out to really soon, probably by the next episode. I got who uh, somebody else going to help out along the show. I'm not really going to tell what it is, but you'll hear that real soon. Hey, if you're joining, leave a name in the comments so I can give you a shout out. Appreciate everybody that likes to call in. We really appreciate you guys joining us live when we do this. Also, you can see I got me a hat. Got my hat made. Old Man Sports Talk hat. They'll be online really soon if you want one. Um, Probably within the next 30 days, you'll be able to get you some merch, you get a hat, maybe some hoodies and some other things. So, anyways, appreciate you guys joining us. Appreciate all the likes and subscribes we got going on. Um, we got some videos that are getting out there pretty good, and I appreciate all the support. Really do. So today's episode is really, you know, a hot topic in this area that I live in. I live in Oklahoma, and so the closest football team that we have, a professional football team, I should say, is the Dallas Cowboys. So they they are the hot topic around here. I'm pretty sure they're hot down in Dallas. They're definitely hot around here. Um, what do we do, or what do they do? What do the Dallas Cowboys do with Dak Prescott? I mean, is he the man? Is he the man for the future? Is he the man of the team? Or do they need to move on and find somebody else? I mean, if you look at just history since Troy Aikman has left, which was dang near 30 years ago, um, there has not been a team for the Dallas Cowboys team that has really competed for a championship. There's some good teams, like this year's team, really good on defense. Now there was a couple games where they didn't look so good, but for the most of the season, their defense looked really good. So the question, I mean, you look at their offense. I mean, they got Dak Prescott. They got a pretty decent offensive line. They've got Schultz at tight end. They actually got a couple other tight ends they plug in also that do just as good. They've got uh, um, why can't I think of his name? Help me out. The dang running backs. I'm just didn't prepare. I don't know why I can't think of his name, but they got Pollard, the backup, who I think is the better running back. Ezekiel Elliott, that's his name. So they got Ezekiel Elliott and Pollard, two good running backs. And this day and age, you do need two running backs. It's really hard to get to the Super Bowl with just one running back. And then you got receivers. They got CeeDee Lamb. They got rid of uh, um, Amari Cooper because they thought you know, some other receivers would do the job, and they didn't do bad. But offensively, the Dallas Cowboys are good enough to uh, get the job done. Now, there's some other good offenses out there too, but they've got the pieces. So, what's the issue? Why why can't they get over the hump? Well, like any team, I think that it all starts with the quarterback, and I just do not think that Dak Prescott is good enough to get the Dallas Cowboys to the Super Bowl. So where do I come up with it? Why do I think that? Well, let's just look at some numbers here. Dak Prescott, he threw for 2,860 yards this year, had a 66.2 uh, completion percentage. He threw for 23 touchdowns, but he also threw 15 interceptions. By the way, that those 15 interceptions were tied for most in the league. Okay. He had a QB rating of a 91.1 and he was sacked 20 times. But here's the thing, he only played 12 games this year. He missed 5 games for injury. So again, as I mentioned earlier, he had 15 interceptions in 12 games. That's 1.25 interceptions a game. He also threw for 1.91 touchdowns a game, and he threw for 238 yards per game. So, you know, he also in those 12 games he went 8-4. Not too bad. Not too bad. But if he would have, cut down the interceptions, they probably go 10-2, maybe 11-1. So the interceptions is what really kills the Dallas Cowboys and what makes Dak Prescott look really bad. So I mentioned earlier he missed 5 games for injury. So who replaced him? Who was the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys when Dak Prescott was hurt? Well, it was Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush was the quarterback. And let's look at his numbers. He threw for 1,051 yards. He had a completion percentage of 58. He only threw for 5 touchdowns, but he only threw 3 interceptions also. He had a QBR rating of 80. He was sacked 7 times, and again, he only played 5 games. So his numbers actually, his average of yards per game was 210. So his yards or everything, his numbers looked less, wasn't as good as Dak Prescott. And even a 5-3 is not great. 5 to touchdown, 3 interceptions is not great. But he is averaging less than 1 interception a game, unlike Dak Prescott, who's averaging 1.25 per game. Here's the bigger thing, though. He went 4-1, and including he beat the Cincinnati Bengals, who is in the AFC Championship right now and played in the Super Bowl last year. He beat 2 division rivals in the New York Giants and the Washington Commanders. And by the way, both of those games he won pretty easy. Now the Cincinnati game was close, but the Giants and the Commanders he won by double digits. And then he beat Tennessee, and he lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, who at that time was undefeated. When he lost, Philadelphia was undefeated, and they went on to win the NFC. So wasn't like it was a terrible loss, and only lost by a touchdown. So again, it was not a terrible loss, and that was right when, in fact, it was actually a lot of pressure on him because they were already talking about, well, Dak going to be back next week, but if Cooper come out and win this game, then people are going to be like, well, maybe we don't need it. Maybe we just need to keep Cooper in there. And I do believe that if the Cowboys had beat the Philadelphia Eagles, that Cooper Rush would have stayed probably the quarterback for the remainder of the season. It'd have been tough to take him out after that. So, but he lost. It was a close game. Best defense he played up to that point, and he threw 2 or 3 interceptions in that game. So he didn't play great. So there was cause to replace him, and that's what they did. So, what what is it that the Cowboys are gonna do now? You got a quarterback that is, I mean, you're paying 30 million a year to, and you got a guy, and I didn't look up how much Cooper Rush is getting paid, but it's not anywhere near in that ballpark, not anywhere close. So, um, what about, do the Dallas Cowboys pick up some free agents? Pick up a free agent quarterback. Well, let's look at some of the quarterbacks that are going to be free agents in the off season. We got Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Teddy Bridgewater, Daniel Jones, Case Keenum, Jacoby Brissett, Mike White, Taylor Heineke. Any of those guys? Maybe? No? What about these guys? How about Tom Brady? How about Jimmy Garoppolo? How about Geno Smith? How about Lamar Jackson, Tyler Huntley, and Gardner Minshew? Now, those last two I know didn't sound like much compared to the other ones I just named, but when they have played, they've looked pretty decent. We're going to give you some numbers on those guys too. So I don't have no numbers for Tom Brady. I don't need no numbers for Tom Brady. He's the GOAT for what he did this season. But I will tell you this: he did finish the league, even at his age, finished the league third in passing. Third in passing. The only quarterbacks that were ahead of him were Patrick Mahomes and I forget the other one, but it wasn't, believe it or not, it was not Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow finished fifth. So, um, so Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, Jimmy has been one of these guys that, to me, he has been a pretty decent quarterback, pretty good quarterback, not even decent, pretty good quarterback. And for some reason, the San Francisco 49ers have just not really wanted him around. So I'm not sure if there's something going on in the locker room or for some reason they don't like him. I don't know. But, if big controversy in the offseason about trying to shop him, and, he had a lot of money on his contract. Nobody wanted to pick it up. And that's going to be the same thing with Dak Prescott, especially here in a little bit. I'll get to numbers with you. But nobody wanted his contract. Okay. Especially for 1 year, right? He's an unrestricted free agent now. So, now it was a good thing though that the 49ers did sign him back. They restructured his contract, signed him back for 1 year because um, Lance, what his name, the quarterback for the 49ers, he ended up getting hurt first game of the season, I believe it was, or second or third game, something like that. I was thinking it was him that got hurt, but it was actually Prescott that got hurt in the first game of the season. So, and then Garoppolo came in until he got hurt. And then, of course, Brock Purdy took him the rest of the way. But um, Garoppolo's numbers were really good. He threw while this season before he got hurt, he threw for 2,437 yards, had a 67.2 completion percentage. He threw 16 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions, had a 103 QBR rating. He did get sacked 18 times, and he only played in 10 games. So really the number that's out of whack there is the sacks. And he's got a pretty good offensive line. So I'm not really, Brock Purdy ain't getting sacked a lot. So I'm not really sure what the issue was there. But he went 7-3, right? Pass for 244 yards a game. Those are pretty good numbers. Now, I did look it up, and it looks like they're going to be expecting him, whoever he signs with, is probably going to be looking to pay him about $40 million a year. Now, the problem with that is, as we'll get into in a minute, the Cowboys ain't going to be able to afford two quarterbacks like that with those type of numbers. I don't know what their salary cap range is, but I'm pretty sure they cannot afford 2 QBs at that type of range. So then you got Geno Smith, who had an outstanding year, came out of the cellar this year and had an outstanding season. He threw for 4,282 yards. He had a completion percentage of 69.8, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, a 100 and 101 QBR rating, but he was sacked 46 times. So that's, especially as mobile as he is, that's a lot for him. And he went 9-8. He did play all 17 games. So, but again, here's another quarterback looking to get 40 million. So, and by the way, Tom Brady, they're looking to pay him 40 million too if he does play again next year, which I do think he will. And I'll tell you in a minute where I think he's going to play at. Lamar Jackson, he passed for 2,242 yards, 62.3 completion percentage, 17 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, 91.1 QBR, and sacked 26 times. He only played 12 games. And his numbers really are kind of similar to Dak Prescott. Now, I'm not saying they're the same quarterback. I think Lamar Jackson's proven himself more than Dak Prescott has. But you're not, and there's another 40 million a year guy. You're just not going to, you can't afford those guys, and you're not getting really on a field wise, you're not getting much improvement. Now, maybe winning wise, you're getting more improvement, but not much more. And he's been hurt a lot. Just don't know if you really want to risk that. So that brings me to two guys at the bottom. Tyler Huntley. He only played in 5 games this year, replacing Lamar Jackson. He only threw for 658 yards and 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. They ran the ball, including with him, ran the ball a lot more than they did throw it. So he and then Gardner Minshew, he was really impressive. He only played 2 games. He threw for 663 yards. That's 332 yards a game. But he only had a completion percentage of 57.9. Not as good as we'd like. And he only threw for 3 touchdowns along with 3 interceptions. So he threw the ball a lot, but he wasn't very efficient with it. Had a QBR of 83.4, so not terrible. And he was sacked 6 times, but all 6 of those was in one game. He only went 0-2. So now one of those losses was the Dallas Cowboys, and he almost beat them. Cowboys only won by a touchdown. So both when the Cowboys and the Eagles played each other, the team that lost had their backup in. So that's kind of ironic. So do any of those feel like worth paying the money for? I mean, you would like to see, Jimmy Garoppolo, you'd like to go get. Geno Smith, you'd like to go get. But can you afford them? No. Well, what about we just drop Dak Prescott? I mean, we're tired of him. Let's just drop him. Well, here's the problem with that. On March 20th of 2022, not this year coming March, but this last March, with Dak being on the roster, it guaranteed him his 2023 salary. And that 2023 salary, where's it at? I got it wrote down. Oh, 31 million. So they're going to pay him 31 million. So you're not going to, if you'd cut him, you still got to pay. It's guaranteed. So all 31 of that is guaranteed. So even if you'd cut him, you still got to pay that money. So they're not going to go pick up one of these other guys. Well, what about next year, 2024 season? So if Dak Prescott is after 5 days is still on the roster, the 2024 roster, then he's guaranteed 29 million plus an additional 5 million for being on the roster. So that's 34 million guaranteed. He's also got a no tag clause, so they can't do a franchise tag on him. And he's also got a no trade clause. So that doesn't mean he can't be traded. It just means he has to agree to the trade and where it is. The stipulations have to be right for him. So unfortunately, it looks like, well, it depends who you are or where you sit at. I don't know. I say unfortunately, but right now, it looks like Dallas and Dak are stuck together at least for the next year, maybe 2 years. Now, 25 and 26 season, even though he's on contract, those are a little more open. There's gonna be some things done on those contracts, so or on those years. So it looks like Dak is gonna be a Dallas Cowboy for at least 2 more years, and we'll see what happens. Who knows? Maybe he can get over the hump, but he's looking a lot like Jameis Winston. Remember that one year that Jameis Winston threw for 30 touchdowns, but then he also threw 30 interceptions? That was his last year as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. And then, oh no, it wasn't his last year as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. It was the last year starting as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer because then Tom Brady came in and Jameis Winston sat on the bench and won a Super Bowl ring sitting on the bench. So then he went to New Orleans where he sat a year behind Drew Brees, and he looked great the year after that year, and then until he got hurt, and he just hasn't been the same since, and probably not going to get much of a chance. So I also said where I think Tom Brady ends up next year. So if you kind of remember back to when Tom Brady was a free agent leaving the New England Patriots before he signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there was a lot of talk about him being at that time it was Los Angeles Raider, now it's Las Vegas Raider. Now they have a different head coach, but I think they still got a pretty good team. And then what's ironic is during that time, there was no QB controversy. Derek Carr was the quarterback for the Raiders. But now there's a little bit of, I wouldn't say controversy, but we don't know what the Raiders have planned to do. Are they going to move forward with Stidham, or is Derek Carr going to be the quarterback? Because the last 2 or 3 games of the season, Derek Carr was on vacation. He didn't even suit up. They said that we're going to play Stidham the rest of the season and see how he can do. And so my thoughts are Tom Brady might be wearing the silver and black. I don't know if that team is good enough to get to the Super Bowl, but let me also say this. When he went to Tampa Bay, that team was not good enough to go to the Super Bowl either. And then they started picking up other free agents that wanted to win a Super Bowl, and they ended up winning it. So I definitely could see it's kind of like LeBron James thing, right? Remember when he went to Miami and back to Cleveland? You got these old free agents, and actually he tried to do it with the Lakers too. It just didn't work out. But uh, he gets these old free agents that want to win a ring just to play some key roles. That's what the Buccaneers did, and I believe if he was to sign with the Las Vegas Raiders, that's what they would do too. I mean, they've got some good players. They got one of the best running backs in the league in Josh Jacobs. They've got some good receivers, really good receivers in Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow. And then they've got a couple really good tight ends, actually, Wallner, and then they had another one step in. I can't think of his name. So their defense, they got to improve on the defensive side of the ball. They've got a couple of really good defensive players, but the rest of them are okay. So they've got to improve. That's where their free agents need to come in at. Is the is on the defensive side of the ball. So, but anyway, what this show was about was Dak Prescott. And again, before I sign off, just gonna tell you, I believe that the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott are gonna be together for a couple more years, and then if things aren't any better, it's adios. Adios, Dak. Now, real quick though, I did even look who is the free agents for next year. Would there be one worth because remember I said if he's on the active roster in day 5. So, what if they cut him? They don't have to pay that money. Now they gotta pay I think there's probably some guaranteed, I couldn't really tell how much, but, um, it and maybe 29 of it was guaranteed because it was 29 plus 5 if he's on the active roster. So what's the extra 5 worth, right? So here's the free agents that'll be the quarterback free agents in 2024 class, and there's not a lot. There's really not a lot. It's Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, Ryan Tannehill, Jameis Winston, who I was mentioning a while ago, Marcus Mariota, Joe Burrow, Mitch Trubisky, and Jalen Hurts. There's only 2 there's only 2 of those quarterbacks that I'd be willing to go pay some money for. And those 2, I don't believe are leaving the teams right now because they're both those 2 teams that's Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts, by the way, and both those quarterbacks are still in the playoffs right now, playing their conference championships, and probably or very well could be meeting up in the Super Bowl. So and Joe was there last year. So, especially if Joe makes it again this year, why would he even want to go or look at somewhere else? He's been getting to the Super Bowl. Even if he doesn't win it this year and he goes 0-2, he's been getting there. He just got to get a little bit better. Got to get over the hump. And then Jalen Hurts, he would have got to the Super Bowl. So why would he want to leave and go somewhere else? So I don't think either one of those guys are going to look anywhere else. And both those guys, I looked at how much the only 2 actually it gives you a little projection of how much some of the quarterbacks would be, worth, and the only 2 quarterbacks that had a projection of money was those 2 of Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts, and both of them was at $44,000,000 a year. So, that's another $15,000,000 than what you're expected to pay Dak Prescott. So, it might just be better to wait another year, and I don't know who will be the free agents in 2025. That's something I should have looked up, who would have been the free agent 2025 and 2026 to see who we would, who they would wanna pick up. But right now, Dallas and Dak, looks like y'all stuck together like peas in a pod for a couple more years. All right? Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. Please share. Please share the video to all your friends. And I hope you enjoy it. And next time, if you have anything you would like me to talk about, please email me. My email is right there on the bottom of the screen. Just email me and hey, old man Nate, what's your thoughts on this? What's your thoughts on that? And I'll definitely give you my thoughts. So, anyways, thanks again for watching. Hope you guys have a good evening and God bless.